I watched my mother's face turn white as she read the gold embossed envelope I'd left on the kitchen counter. The one addressed to the family of Miss Charlotte Chen, full scholarship recipient, Oxford University. Charlie? Charlie! Her scream echoed through our McMansion as I settled into my first-class seat, paid for by my scholarship stipend. My phone buzzed with 17 missed calls. I turned it off and accepted the champagne from the flight attendant. They'd find out eventually, just not from me. Not this time. The last time I lived this day, I was dead within 6 months. That's the thing about dying at 23. You remember everything with perfect, crystalline clarity. I remember the taste of the poison my sister slipped into my coffee. I remember my mother's face at my funeral, crying crocodile tears while wearing the Cartier bracelet she'd bought with my college fund. I remember my father's eulogy, praising Sarah's accomplishments while mentioning me only as our quieter daughter. Most of all, I remember the conversation I wasn't supposed to hear, the night before my funeral. Sarah and my mother, in the room where my body lay. "Do you think anyone will find out?" Sarah had asked, her voice shaking. "Find out what?" "That you've been forging her signature on scholarship checks for 3 years? That you used her acceptance letter to Berkeley to plagiarize her entire application to Stanford?" My mother's laugh was cold. "Darling, she's dead. Dead girls don't talk. Besides, everyone knows you were always the brilliant one." "What about the trust fund from grandmother?" "Already transferred to your account. Charlotte never even knew it existed. Your father and I made sure of that." I died thinking I was worthless. I died believing every cruel word they'd ever said. I died thinking my perfect sister earned everything she had while I was just the family disappointment who barely scraped into a state school. I died not knowing I'd gotten into Oxford. But then I woke up. 16 years old again, 5 months before my first death, in my childhood bedroom with its peeling wallpaper and broken heating. So different from Sarah's suite down the hall, with its walk-in closet and private bathroom. This time, I knew the truth. This time, I had a choice. This time, I was going to take everything that was mine. The abuse started small, the way it always does. I was 7 when Sarah was born, and overnight, I became invisible. Every piano recital I won, Sarah had potential at age 2. Every A+ I brought home was met with "That's nice, dear," while Sarah's finger paintings went on the fridge in gilded frames. By the time I was 10, I'd learned to stay quiet. Quiet daughters don't get yelled at. Quiet daughters don't get compared unfavorably to their golden child sisters. Quiet daughters can hide in the library and actually learn something while everyone else is too busy fawning over Sarah's mediocre book reports. The pity. Financial abuse started when I turned 14. That's when grandmother Chen died and left her considerable fortune to be split between her 2 granddaughters, $500,000 each, held in trust until we turned 18. I found out about this inheritance at 16, the second time. In my first life, I never knew. My parents had my trust fund transferred to Sarah's account before I even understood what a trust fund was. They told me grandmother had left everything to Sarah because she saw more potential in her. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? But in this life, I knew to look. I knew to check. And 3 weeks after my rebirth, I made my first move. I called the law office of Chen and Associates, my grandmother's firm, now run by her former partner. "Hello, Mr. Zhang, this is Charlotte Chen. I have some questions about my grandmother's will." The silence on the other end was telling. "Miss Charlotte," he finally said, his voice careful, "I'm surprised to hear from you. Your parents said you weren't interested in financial matters." "My parents said a lot of things," I replied, my 16-year-old voice steadier than it had any right to be. "But I'm 18 in 2 years, and I'd like to know what I'm inheriting." Another pause. "Perhaps we should meet in person." We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over, where no one would recognize me. Mr. Zhang brought documents. Lots of documents. "Your grandmother was very specific in her will," he explained, spreading papers across the table. $500,000 for you, $500,000 for your sister. The funds were to be held in trust until each of you turned 18, at which point you'd receive full control. Were to be? I caught the past tense. His jaw tightened. 2 years ago, your parents presented documentation showing your consent to transfer your trust to your sister. Your signature was notarized as everything appeared legal. Except I never signed anything. No, he said quietly. I don't believe you did. Your grandmother always spoke highly of you, Charlotte. She said you had her mind for numbers, her love of learning. She wanted to make sure you had the freedom to pursue your education without financial constraints. I felt something crack inside my chest. She said that? Often. She was very proud of you. He pushed another document toward me. This is what's left of your trust. Your parents made several withdrawals over the past 2 years. There's approximately $47,000 remaining. 47,000 out of 500. Sarah had a new car, a luxury one. My mother had a new wardrobe, my father had a new boat, and I had $47,000 and the clothes in my closet that Sarah had deemed too ugly to take. Can I prove the signature was forged? I asked. It would be difficult. The notary was legitimate, though I suspect they didn't actually verify your identity. Your parents claimed you were too shy to come in person. He leaned forward. But Charlotte, you're 16. In 2 years, what's left of your trust becomes legally yours. My suggestion? Protect it, and more importantly, protect yourself. I intend to. I left that meeting with $47,000, a flash drive full of documentation, and a plan. The scholarship letter arrived 4 months later. In my first life, I'd never seen it. Sarah had intercepted the mail that day, she always did, screening for anything that might make me look good. She'd hidden my Oxford acceptance letter, my full-ride scholarship notification, all of it. Then she'd plagiarized my entire application and submitted it to Stanford as her own work. She got in. Of course she did. My essays were good enough for Oxford. They were more than good enough for Stanford. She was there on a full scholarship, my scholarship, when I died. My mother had been so proud. This time, I was ready. I'd set up a P.O. box 2 towns over, listing it as my mailing address on every application. I'd applied to 15 schools instead of 5, each application perfect, polished, mine. I'd written different essays for each one, making sure none could be plagiarized without it being obvious. And I'd applied to Oxford. Again. The letter was beautiful. Heavy cream paper, the university crest embossed in gold. Dear Miss Chen, we are delighted to offer you a place to read mathematics at Lady Margaret Hall. Full scholarship. Stipend included. Housing covered. Everything I needed to disappear across an ocean and never look back. I held that letter in my hands and cried for the girl I'd been. The one who never got to read these words, the one who died thinking she was worthless. Then I carefully put it in my safety deposit box, another thing I'd opened with my remaining trust money, and went home to play the role of the mediocre daughter just a little longer. The real turning point came 3 weeks before graduation. My family was having dinner, a rare occasion where we all sat together. Usually, I ate in my room, claiming homework. It was easier than watching my parents fawn over Sarah while ignoring me entirely. Sarah, darling, we need to discuss your Stanford orientation, my mother said, serving my sister an extra helping of the expensive salmon. I had chicken. Again. The dormitory requirements say, actually, Sarah interrupted, her voice sugary sweet. I was thinking Charlie could give me her college fund, since she's just going to state and I'll be at Stanford. It would be fair, wouldn't it? I mean, Stanford is so much more expensive. I looked up from my plate. What college fund? My parents exchanged a glance. The small fund we set aside, my father said dismissively. About $15,000. We were going to surprise you, but Sarah's right. Stanford's tuition is $47,000, I said quietly. The table went silent. I'm sorry, my mother's voice was ice. Not 15, 47,000. What's left of my trust fund from Grandmother Chen after you spent $453,000 of it on Sarah's car, your wardrobe, and Dad's boat. My father's face went red. How dare you? I have the bank statements, I continued, my voice still calm. Years of being dead gave you a certain perspective on fear. I have the forged signature on the transfer documents. I have grandmother's original will. And I have a very good lawyer who's willing to testify that you committed fraud. Sarah's fork clattered to her plate. You ungrateful little, my mother started. I'm not done. I stood up. I also know that Sarah has been intercepting my mail. I know she stole my scholarship applications last year and submitted them as her own to Stanford. I know she's been logging into my school accounts using a keylogger she installed on the family computer. This was a bluff, a calculated one. I'd spent 2 months setting up elaborate traps, making sure Sarah would take the bait. I'd written practice essays on topics I knew Stanford would ask about. I'd left them in my school account, easily accessible. I'd talked loudly on the phone about scholarships I was applying for, making sure she could overhear. She'd stolen all of it. I knew because I'd installed my own keylogger, and I'd watched her do it. That's ridiculous, Sarah said, but her voice shook. Charlie's just jealous because I'm going to Stanford and she's not going anywhere. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You're right, I said. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to Oxford. I pulled the acceptance letter from my pocket, a copy, not the original, and placed it on the table. Full scholarship, stipend included. They sent it to my P.O. box, so you couldn't steal this one, Sarah. I leave in 3 months. I'm withdrawing my remaining trust funds tomorrow, and I've already filed a complaint with the University Fraud Department about your Stanford application. My mother grabbed the letter, her hands shaking. This is fake. You couldn't possibly. It's real. You can call them if you like. Though I should mention that I've also sent a detailed report to Stanford's admissions department explaining that Sarah's application contains plagiarized material, with evidence. Time-stamped documents showing I wrote those essays months before she submitted them. You vindictive little bitch, my father snarled. No, I said softly, I'm the daughter you tried to rob. There's a difference. I walked out of that dining room and never ate another meal with them. The next 2 months were war. My parents tried everything. They claimed I was mentally ill, delusional, making up stories about inheritance and fraud. They told our relatives I was on drugs. They contacted Oxford directly, trying to get my admission rescinded by claiming I'd lied on my application. Oxford investigated, thoroughly. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. Every word I'd written was true, every grade genuine, every recommendation earned. In fact, Oxford was quite interested to learn that another student had submitted suspiciously similar essays to Stanford. Stanford was even more interested. They launched their own investigation. Sarah's application unraveled like cheap thread. The essays she'd submitted weren't just similar to mine. They were identical, down to the punctuation. She'd copied them wholesale from my practice files and changed only the header. Her acceptance was revoked 3 weeks before graduation. I found out from Mr. Zhang, who'd been quietly assisting me from behind the scenes. He called me at the library, one of the few places I felt safe anymore. Stanford sent notification this morning, he said. Your sister's admission has been canceled for academic dishonesty. They've also contacted the other schools she applied to. And my parents are facing a formal inquiry from the trust department. The evidence you provided was quite damning. The forged signature alone is enough for criminal fraud charges. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. Mr. Zhang, did my grandmother really say those things about me? About being proud at them? His voice softened. She did, often. She saw how your parents treated you, Charlotte. She tried to protect you the only way she knew how, by ensuring you'd have financial independence. I'm sorry I couldn't prevent them from stealing it. You couldn't have known. No, but I should have checked. I should have insisted on seeing you in person. He paused. For what it's worth, I think she'd be very proud of the young woman you've become. You have her spine. I cried in the library that day, but this time they were good tears. The scholarship ceremony was scheduled for June 15th, 2 weeks after graduation. It was a big deal, a televised event, where the district's top academic achievers receive their awards in front of families, teachers, and local news crews. I was one of 5 students receiving full-ride international scholarships, the only one going to Oxford. In my first life, I'd never known this ceremony existed. Sarah had intercepted that invitation too, and my parents had never mentioned it. I'd died thinking I was nobody special. This time I received the invitation at my P.O. box. The organizers had tried to contact my parents too, of course, assuming they'd want to attend their daughter's moment of triumph. My mother had told them I'd declined the scholarship and wouldn't be attending. She'd tried to have my name removed from the program. The organizers, confused, had called the number I'd listed on my application, my own cell phone, not the family landline. "Miss Chen, we received a call from your mother saying you won't be attending the ceremony. We wanted to confirm directly with you before making any changes." "My mother is mistaken," I'd said calmly. "I'll be there. But my family won't be. Please don't send them any more invitations." There was a pause. "Is everything all right, Miss Chen?" "It will be," I'd promised. The ceremony coordinator, a kind woman named Mrs. Rodriguez, had heard something in my voice. She'd done some digging, found out about the Stanford situation, the trust fund fraud investigation, the whole ugly story. "Charlotte," she'd said when she called me back a week later, "would you like to invite someone else? A friend? A mentor? You shouldn't have to sit in that audience section alone." I'd thought about it. "Actually, could I invite my grandmother's former business partner, Mr. Zhang? He's been helping me." "Of course." So that's how I ended up with Mr. Zhang as my guest, sitting in the front row of the auditorium while my parents sat at home with no idea this ceremony was even happening. I'd made sure of that. The morning of the ceremony, I left a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a copy of my Oxford acceptance letter, a copy of the scholarship notification, and a printed program from the ceremony showing my name in bold letters: Charlotte Chen, full scholarship. Lady Margaret Hall, Oxford University. There was no note, no explanation, just the evidence of everything they'd tried to steal from me. I'd timed it perfectly. The ceremony started at 2 p.m. My flight to London early, but Oxford had invited scholarship recipients to a summer program left at 6 p.m. By the time they found the envelope, I'd be on stage. By the time they could do anything about it, I'd be in the air. I'd never have to see their faces again. The auditorium was packed. Local news cameras lined the back wall. Families filled the seats, beaming with pride at their accomplished children. Mr. Zhang sat in the front row wearing a suit that had probably cost more than my parents' car. He caught my eye and nodded, a small smile at his face. I was wearing the dress I'd bought with my own money. Simple, elegant, cream-colored. It was the opposite of everything my mother would have chosen for me. It was perfect. The ceremony began with the smaller scholarships, local awards, state school full rides, respectable but not remarkable. The parents clapped politely, the cameras rolled, then they reached the international scholarships. "Our next award is one of the most prestigious in the district's history," Mrs. Rodriguez announced from the podium. "This student has earned a full scholarship to Oxford University, one of the oldest and most respected institutions in the world. She will be reading mathematics at Lady Margaret Hall." She paused, letting the weight of it sink in. "This scholarship covers not only tuition, but room, board, and a living stipend. It is awarded to only 30 students worldwide each year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Charlotte Chen." The applause was thunderous. I walked across that stage with my head high, every step of victory. Mrs. Rodriguez handed me a certificate bound in leather, the Oxford crest stamped in gold. The cameras flashed. "Charlotte," she said, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "Sis, would you like to say a few words?" This wasn't planned, but I found myself nodding. I turned to face the audience, the cameras, the future. "I want to thank everyone who helped me get here," I said, my voice steady. "Especially Mr. Zhang, my grandmother's former colleague, who helped me understand what she wanted for me. My grandmother, Ms. Helen Chen, believed in education above all else. She believed every person deserved the chance to reach their full potential." I paused, looking directly at the camera. She left me a legacy, not just money, but belief. She believed in me when no one else did. This scholarship, this opportunity, it's what she wanted for me. And I'm going to make her proud. The applause was even louder this time. Mr. Zhang was wiping his eyes. I posed for photographs. I shook hands with the school board. I accepted congratulations from teachers who'd never really noticed me before but were suddenly eager to claim credit for my success. And somewhere across town, in a house full of stolen money and broken trust, my mother was opening an envelope. My phone started ringing at 2:47 p.m. I was in Mrs. Rodriguez's office signing final paperwork for the scholarship disbursement. My phone buzzed and buzzed and buzzed. Mom, Dad, Sarah. Mom again, Dad again. I let them all go to voicemail. Mrs. Rodriguez watched me silence the calls. Family? She asked quietly. Not anymore. She nodded, understanding more than I'd said. You have everything you need. Place to stay until your flight? Hotel by the airport. Already booked. Good. She handed me the final document. Charlotte, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen a lot of talented students. But you're something special. Not because of your grades or your test scores, though those are exceptional. You're special because you survived. My throat tightened. Thank you. Whatever happened in your family, whatever you're running from, you broke the cycle. That takes courage most people never find. She stood extending her hand. Go to Oxford, learn, grow, become whoever you want to be, and don't look back. I shook her hand, then left the school for the last time. The voicemails were predictable. My mother screaming about betrayal and lies. How dare I humiliate the family like this? How dare I go behind their backs? My father threatening legal action. I was stealing from Sarah. I was ruining her life. I'd pay for this. Sarah, crying, begging. She was sorry. She'd made mistakes. Couldn't we work this out? She'd tell Stanford it was all a misunderstanding if I'd just come home and talk. I deleted them all. Then I called Mr. Zhang. Congratulations, he said warmly. You were magnificent. Thank you for being there. Of course. Though I suspect you're about to tell me things are about to get complicated. My parents know. They're calling, threatening lawsuits. Let them try. His voice turned hard. I've already filed a formal complaint with the district attorney's office regarding the trust fund fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. If they want to sue you, they're welcome to try. It'll just accelerate the criminal investigation. They'll go after my scholarship? They can't. It's yours, legally, ethically, morally, yours. Your parents have no claim to it, no control over it. You're 18 in 2 weeks. And then you'll be completely free. And Sarah? Stanford's revocation is final. Her other acceptances have been similarly withdrawn. From what I understand, she's enrolled at community college for the fall. He paused. Charlotte, I have to ask. Do you feel guilty? I thought about that. About Sarah, who'd had everything handed to her and still needed to steal from me. About my parents, who'd robbed their own daughter to fund their favorite child's dreams. No, I said finally. I feel free. The hotel room was small but clean. I ordered room service, real food, not the scraps I usually got at home, and watched the local news. The ceremony made the evening broadcast. Local student receives prestigious Oxford scholarship, the anchor announced cheerfully. My face filled the screen, accepting my certificate. They played a clip of my speech. She believed in me when no one else did. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Charlie. Sarah's voice was small, broken. She must have borrowed someone's phone. Please, you have to fix this. Fix what? Tell Stanford it was a mistake. Tell them you gave me permission to use your essays. Tell them you committed plagiarism. Tell them you stole from me. No. You've ruined my life, her voice cracked. I have nothing now. Mom and Dad are furious. Stanford rejected me. I'm a laughingstock. You ruined your own life, Sarah. You had everything. A car, a college fund, my college fund, a family that loved you. And it wasn't enough. You needed to take from me, too. I'm your sister. You were my bully, I corrected. There's a difference. Sisters love each other. Sisters protect each other. You stole from me. You intercepted my mail. You tried to steal my entire future. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, please. I don't forgive you. I hung up. For a long time, I sat in that hotel room, holding my phone, waiting to feel something. Guilt, regret, sadness. But all I felt was relief. I turned 18 on June 20th, 5 days after the ceremony. Mr. Zhang took me to lunch at the most expensive restaurant in the city. His treat, he insisted. Over Chilean sea bass and champagne, my first legal drink, though the waiter didn't card me, he presented me with an envelope. From your grandmother, he said. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, written in elegant script, dated 2 months before my grandmother died. My dearest Charlotte, if you're reading this, it means you've reached your 18th birthday and Mr. Zhang has determined you're ready for the truth. I know how your parents treat you. I've seen it for years, and it breaks my heart. I tried to intervene when you were young, but your mother stopped allowing my visits. She said I was confusing you by praising your intelligence and encouraging your education. I couldn't protect you directly, but I could protect your future. The trust fund is yours, every penny. If your parents have stolen it, Mr. Zhang has instructions to help you recover it. Don't let them convince you that you don't deserve it. Don't let them make you small. You have a brilliant mind, Charlotte. You have strength you don't even know yet. You have the ability to do extraordinary things. Don't waste those gifts trying to earn the love of people who can't see your worth. Love yourself enough to walk away. I wish I could be there to see the woman you become, but I know, even without seeing it, that you will be magnificent. With all my love, grandmother, I cried into my sea bass. Mr. Zhang waited patiently until I could speak again. She knew, I whispered. She knew everything. She did, and she planned accordingly. He slid another document across the table. There's one more thing. Your grandmother had a second account, one your parents didn't know about. She called it her emergency fund. It's been accruing interest for 3 years. I looked at the number on the paper. $250,000. She wanted you to have options, Mr. Zhang explained. The trust fund was for education. This is for life, for starting over, for being free. I don't understand. Why didn't she just give it all to you directly? Because you were 14 and your parents had legal control, they would have found a way to take it. This way, it stayed hidden until you were old enough to protect it yourself. He smiled. Your grandmother was a very strategic woman. Like you, I said. Like you, he corrected. The flight to London was surreal. First class, paid for by my scholarship stipend. Champagne at 30,000 feet. A bed that converted from my seat. Entertainment systems and hot towels and more food than I could possibly eat. I kept waiting for someone to tell me there'd been a mistake. That I didn't belong here. That I should be in the back with the economy passengers, squeezed between strangers, eating processed food and breathing recycled air. But no one stopped me. Because I did belong here. I'd earned this. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I opened my laptop and checked my email. 47 messages from my parents, 23 from Sarah, a dozen from relatives I barely knew, suddenly interested in my life now that I was successful. I deleted them all without reading them. Then I opened a new message and typed carefully. Dear Mr. Zhang, thank you for everything. Please proceed with the criminal complaint against my parents. I'll provide testimony when I return for winter break. Also, please donate $50,000 from my emergency fund to the district scholarship program in my grandmother's name. Earmark it for students who need help escaping difficult family situations. Mrs. Rodriguez will know who qualifies. I want other kids like me to have a chance. Thank you for believing in me. Charlotte. His response came before I landed. Consider it done. Your grandmother would be proud. Safe travels, Charlotte. Go build your empire. Oxford was everything I'd dreamed and nothing I'd expected. The campus was old stone and ancient libraries, traditions stretching back centuries, brilliant minds from every corner of the world. I was assigned to Lady Margaret Hall, a college founded for women, steeped in history and academic excellence. My room was small, but mine, actually mine. No one could take it from me. No one could come in uninvited. The first night, I locked the door and cried with relief. The second day, I met my tutorial partner, a girl named Amara from Kenya, who'd also come on a full scholarship. She'd also escaped a toxic family. We bonded over tea and textbooks, sharing stories we'd never told anyone else. My father said women shouldn't go to university, she confided. He tried to marry me off at 16. My family stole my inheritance and gave it to my sister, I replied. Then tried to sabotage my scholarship when I fought back. We looked at each other and started laughing. The kind of laughter that comes from surviving something terrible and realizing you're not alone. We're going to be brilliant, Amara declared, just to spite them. Absolutely. We were. My first term, I earned the highest marks in my mathematics cohort. My tutor called me exceptional and suggested I consider continuing to postgraduate work. My second term, I published a paper on number theory that got picked up by a prestigious journal. At 19, I was one of the youngest contributors they'd ever featured. My third term, I was offered a summer research position at Cambridge, paid, with housing. I sent my parents a postcard, just one. Doing well, don't contact me. See? They didn't listen. The first lawsuit arrived during my second year, my father claiming I'd stolen family resources by accepting the Oxford scholarship. He wanted reimbursement for 18 years of care and support. Mr. Zhang had it dismissed within a week. Your father, he explained over email, apparently doesn't understand that you can't bill your children for the legally required act of raising them. Also, his case fell apart when I provided evidence that they actually spent your money, not theirs. The second lawsuit came from Sarah. She claimed I'd sabotaged her career by reporting her plagiarism. She wanted damages for emotional distress. This one took longer to dismiss, mostly because Sarah's lawyer was better than my father's. But ultimately, truth won. She had plagiarized. She had stolen my work. No court was going to award her damages for facing consequences. The third lawsuit was the criminal case, the one I'd requested. My parents were charged with fraud, forgery, and theft. The evidence was overwhelming. Their lawyer tried to argue it was a family misunderstanding, but the prosecutor wasn't having it. Your clients, she said coldly, forged their daughter's signature to steal $453,000 from her trust fund. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a crime. They took a plea deal. My father got 3 years probation and had to pay restitution, every penny they'd stolen plus interest. My mother got 2 years probation and community service. Sarah wasn't charged. She'd been a minor when the theft occurred, and while she'd benefited, she hadn't actually forged the documents. But she'd lost everything anyway. No college would accept her after the plagiarism scandal. She was working retail, living in a studio apartment, barely scraping by. My parents were forced to sell their McMansion to pay the restitution. They moved into a small condo in a bad part of town. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt nothing. Third year, I met James. He was a doctoral candidate in physics, brilliant and kind, with dark hair and glasses that were always slightly crooked. He laughed at my jokes. He listened when I talked about my research. He didn't care that I came from money or that my family was a disaster. He just liked me. We dated for 6 months before I told him the whole story. About dying and being reborn, about the abuse and the theft and the revenge. I expected him to think I was crazy. Instead, he kissed my forehead and said, "You survived. That's what matters." You believe me about the rebirth? I believe you experienced something that gave you the knowledge to save yourself. Whether it was time travel, precognition, or just incredibly good instincts. Does it matter? You're here. You're brilliant. You're mine if you'll have me. I married him 2 years later in a small ceremony at Oxford's chapel. Amara was my maid of honor. Mr. Zhang gave me away. My parents weren't invited. I got my doctorate at 26. My dissertation on cryptographic applications of number theory was published by Oxford University Press. Companies started recruiting me before I even defended. I took a position at a tech firm in London, developing encryption algorithms. The salary was obscene. The work was fascinating. I was happy. James got a position at Imperial College. We bought a flat in South Kensington, all hardwood floors and natural light. We adopted a cat named Schrodinger. Life was good, better than good. And still, my family kept trying. The email started when I turned 27. My mother, suddenly interested in reconnecting. She'd seen my work in the news. She was so proud. She wanted to make amends. Sarah, asking for money. Just a small loan. She was struggling. Surely I could help family? My father, writing from a new email address after I blocked his old one, explaining that he'd made mistakes, but he was still my father. I deleted them all. Then I changed my name. Legally, formally, completely. Charlotte Chen became Charlotte Zhang. Mr. Zhang cried when I told him. You don't have to do this, he said. Your grandmother's name was Chen, I interrupted gently. And she'd understand. You've been more family to me than they ever were. You protected me. You believed in me. You helped me build this life. It would be my honor, he whispered. So, I became Charlotte Zhang, and the last thread connecting me to my birth family was severed. At 30, I made my first million. Not from salary, though that was considerable. From a startup I'd helped found, developing next-generation encryption for blockchain applications. We sold to a major tech company for an amount that made the news. My portion was $3.2 million. I donated $1 million to Oxford's scholarship fund, earmarked for students from abusive families. I donated another $1 million to various charities, organizations that helped kids escape toxic homes, that provided educational resources to underserved communities, that supported women in STEM. The remaining $1.2 million went into investments. I was set for life, and my family was still struggling. The breaking point came when I was 31. My mother showed up at my office. I don't know how she found me. I'd changed my name, my email, my phone number. I'd scrubbed myself from social media. I'd built walls between my old life and my new one, but somehow she found me. Security called from the lobby. Dr. Zhang, there's a woman here claiming to be your mother. Should we send her away? She's quite insistent. She says it's an emergency. I closed my eyes. Tell her I died. Tell her I moved to Japan. Tell her whatever you want, but she doesn't come up. There was a pause. Understood, Dr. Zhang. But she came back, day after day, waiting in the lobby, trying to intercept me when I left work. Finally, I agreed to meet her, once, in a public place with security nearby. She looked old. That was my first thought. Only 53, but she looked 70. Her hair was gray and badly cut. Her clothes were discount store specials. Her hands shook. Charlie, she breathed. Thank God, I was so worried. Don't, she flinched. I just want to talk. So, talk. We need help. Your father is sick. Cancer. We can't afford treatment, and the insurance won't. No. Please, I know we made mistakes, but he's dying. You made choices, I corrected. You chose to steal from your own daughter. You chose to give everything to Sarah. You chose to forge my signature and commit fraud. Those weren't mistakes. They were crimes. We were desperate. You were greedy. There's a difference. I stood. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to lose this address and my phone, number, and any other information you have about me, and you're never going to contact me again. But your father is not my problem. You made him my enemy when you let him steal from me. You don't get to play the family card now. Charlotte, please. My name, I said coldly, is Dr. Zhang, and this conversation is over. I walked away while she cried. I didn't look back. My father died 6 months later. I found out from an email Sarah sent to my work address. Another boundary violated, another attempt to drag me back into their dysfunction. Dad's gone, she wrote. Funeral is Tuesday. Mom wants you there. I want you there. Please, Charlie. He was still your father. I didn't go. Instead, I worked. I published another paper. I gave a keynote speech at a cryptography conference. I lived my life. James held me that night when I cried. Not for my father, but for the idea of him. For the dad I'd never had. For the family that might have been if they'd chosen differently. You don't owe them grief, he reminded me. You don't owe them anything. I know. Do you? I thought about that, about guilt and obligation and the weight of family ties. Yes, I said finally. I do. At 33, I published a book. Encryption Theory and Practice, a comprehensive guide, became required reading in computer science programs across 3 continents. The advance alone was enough to retire on. I didn't retire. I started teaching instead. 1 class a term at Imperial College, training the next generation of cryptographers. My students were brilliant and hungry and reminded me of who I'd been at their age. Smart but uncertain, capable but doubting. I told them my story, not all of it, but enough. I came from nothing, I said on the first day of class. My family didn't support my education. They actively tried to sabotage it. But I'm here anyway because I decided I was worth fighting for. What happened to your family? One brave student asked. I left them behind, I said simply. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're blood. The class was silent. Now it is. I continued. Let's talk about RSA encryption. Sarah reached out one last time when I was 35, not via email or phone. She wrote a letter, an actual physical letter sent to my publisher who forwarded it to my agent, who forwarded it to me. It was 7 pages long. She apologized. She explained. She described her life, the struggle, the poverty, the isolation. She talked about therapy and realizations and growth. She said she understood if I never wanted to see her again. She said she just wanted me to know that she was sorry. I read it twice. Then I wrote back. Dear Sarah, I appreciate your apology. I believe you mean it. But I don't forgive you, and I don't want you in my life. You didn't just make a mistake. You stole years from me. You stole opportunities, money, peace of mind. You and our parents made my childhood hell, and you did it consciously, deliberately, for your own benefit. I'm glad you're in therapy. I'm glad you're growing. But that growth is for you, not for me. You don't get absolution from the people you hurt. You have to live with what you did. I've built a life without you, a good life. I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm loved, and none of that includes you. Don't write again. Charlotte Zhang. I never heard from her after that. At 37, Mr. Zhang died, peacefully in his sleep, at the age of 83. He left me everything, his estate, his savings, his collection of rare books. A fortune I didn't need, but accepted gratefully because it was his. His will included a letter. Dearest Charlotte, you gave me purpose in my final years. Helping you was the best work I ever did. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. I am so proud of you. You took pain and turned it into power. You took betrayal and turned it into triumph. You survived. More than that, you thrived. Live well, my dear girl. Love well. And never forget that you were always worth fighting for. All my love, Uncle Zhang. I sobbed through his funeral. James held me. Amara flew in from Kenya, where she was now a professor. My students sent flowers. We buried him next to my grandmother, in the plot he'd reserved years ago. 2 weeks later, I established the Zhang Foundation for Educational Justice. Funded entirely by my inheritance from Mr. Zhang and my own contributions, it provided scholarships, legal assistance, and support services to students escaping abusive families. The first year, we helped 127 kids. The second year, 341. By the 5th year, we were operating in 12 countries. Mr. Zhang's legacy lived on. I'm 42 now. I'm a full professor at Imperial College, Department Chair of Computer Science. I've published 6 books and over 50 papers. I consult for governments and major corporations. I make more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. James and I have 2 children, a daughter named Helen, after my grandmother, and a son named Michael, after no one in particular. They're bright and curious and loved beyond measure. They'll never know hunger or neglect. They'll never doubt they're wanted. They'll never have to fight for scraps of affection or approval. We tell them stories about their great-grandmother Helen, the lawyer who believed in education and justice. We tell them about Uncle John, the man who helped their mother when no one else would. We don't tell them about my parents. They don't ask. Sometimes, late at night, I think about my first life, the one where I died at 23, poisoned and forgotten, the one where I never knew my worth, never saw my acceptance letter, never escaped. That Charlotte died thinking she was worthless. This Charlotte knows better. I don't know why I got a second chance. Rebirth, precognition, divine, intervention, it doesn't matter. What matters is I used it. I saved myself. And in saving myself, I learned to build instead of just survive. I learned that the opposite of abuse isn't just escape, it's thriving. It's success. It's joy. My parents are still alive, I assume. I don't check. Sarah is somewhere in the world, living her life. I hope she's found peace. But I don't need to know. I have my own family now, my own legacy, my own story, and this one has a happy ending. Last week, I gave the commencement speech at Oxford. Standing at that podium, looking out at thousands of students, I felt the weight of everything I'd survived. You will face obstacles, I told them. Some of you already have. Some of you will face betrayal from the people you trust most. Some of you will doubt your worth. The crowd was silent. But here's what I learned. You are the only one who can define your value. Not your family, not your circumstances, not the people who hurt you. You. I paused, my voice strengthening. I stand here today because I decided I was worth fighting for, because I chose myself when no one else would, because I took my pain and turned it into purpose. You can do the same. You will do the same. And someday, when you're standing where I'm standing, you'll look back on everything you survived and realize it made you stronger. It made you kinder. It made you who you are. And who you are is enough. More than enough. You are brilliant. You are capable. You are worthy. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, especially not family. The applause was thunderous. That night, James found me on our balcony looking out over London. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me. "Just thinking about how far I've come. From Oxford student to Oxford commencement speaker, I'd say pretty far. Further than that." I leaned back against him. "From dead girl to department chair. From victim to victor." "You were never a victim," he murmured. "Not really. You were always a fighter. You just needed the chance to fight." Maybe he was right. Maybe I'd always been this Charlotte, just waiting for permission to exist. Or maybe the first death taught me what the first life couldn't, that survival isn't enough, that I deserved more than just existing, that I was worth the fight. Either way, I won. I got my Oxford scholarship. I built my career. I found my family, the one I chose, not the one I was born into. I got my happy ending. And my parents? They got exactly what they deserved, a front row seat to watch me thrive without them. From a distance they could never bridge. I left them behind the day I boarded that plane to Oxford, and I never looked back.